What's up, everybody? Let's go ahead and get into what we know about the new island that is coming up named Vast Jungle. Let's get right into it. Alright guys, so like I said, we're going to be talking about what we know about Barons, and they've dropped enough hints for us to get a pretty clear picture of what they are going to have. Of course, some of it is going to be, what I spectate will happen, or what I assume will happen, and some of it is just what they've already told us. So anyway, before we get into that, gotta get into the usual shenanigans. This video is sponsored by UPTO. We're using my code EGNE2. You can get anywhere from 5 to 65% off all in-game purchases. With the holidays over and everything, people are still hurting for money, and so this is a great way to be able to save some money and still be able to pay into your favorite ant addiction. So again, that's using my code EGNE2 on Aptoid, and a full description of how to do so will be down in the description down below, as well as a link to my YouTube and Patreon and other things. Alrighty, so we will get right into what we know and what they've released first. Alright, so we'll go over the obvious thing first. We already know it's going to be dropping new season ants. We don't know what they are, but probably following the same thing that it has been for all the other islands. We can pretty much guarantee this is going to be one shooter, one carrier, one guardian, minimal. Whether they're going to be helpers or support or attack, we have no idea. But that part we already know, so we can get that out of the way. It doesn't really matter. The first thing that we get is, as our first hit, is that it'll be a asymmetrical camp competition. So by definition of asymmetrical is that there's some values of it that are not the same as the rest. In this particular one, we can kind of see by the picture that they have here, it's pretty obvious that it's going to be about how many teams there are, which I'll get into later. What I am pretty sure is going to be the aspects of this game mode. But anyway, we'll get into it. First word, asymmetrical. Yeah, we already covered that. All right, and then we'll get into the next. All right, so then we get into their next post, which I'll just basically skim through it. Again, asymmetric confrontation analysis. Since it involves confrontation, it means that the number of camps will be at least 2, and each camp may have a certain number of alliances. This is where, and also based off the pictures that they've already provided, we already know it's going to be 2. There isn't really a way to make it a fair asymmetric with a 3 camp system anyway, because then, it'd be 3, if you got, it'd have to be like a 3, 3, and 2 instead of a, what I personally, I'll show why I think that is probably going to be a 5 versus 3 kind of camp system instead. And again, it can't be a 4 camp because you can't have 2 versus 2 versus 2 versus 2 with it being asymmetrical. So we really have 2 options. It's either going to be a 5 versus 3, or it's going to be a 3, 3, and 2. All right. Which, again, I think it's going to be a 5 versus 3. And I don't really agree with that, and I'll explain why here in a little minute. All right. So it says the difference in the number of alliances between different camps, which is obviously part of being asymmetrical, and the difference in buff effects between different camps. With it being asymmetrical, that's going to be an obvious thing, because you're going to have to give more buffs to the people that have the disadvantage. But I also think that's going to horribly blow up in their face, and I'll explain that here in just a minute. All right, now we get into the meat and potato of things. So it says the new season will adopt an asymmetric camp conformation. A season will include several alliances. During the selection period, alliances can choose the preferred camp, but the final camp will be judged by the actual system. So what that automatically lets me know this is going to be a 2 camp system. And so if you look down here, and they give you what it's already going to be, you can pretty much see that it's going to be a 8 alliance, 8 initial areas, no matter what. And then you're going to also have the inside 3. So this potentially can go one or two ways. Essentially, you're going to have 8 alliances total versus 3, or the other camp will have an initial area, but they don't start in the initial area. So we'll get into that here in just a second. All right, so in order to achieve a balance of offense and defense, different camps will have a difference in clay consumption, stamina consumption, the limit and recover speed of the same gear of season revival fungi, soldier ant healing consumption except for season revival fungi, teleport rights, and camp buffs. Which camps do you prefer? Okay, so this is where we get into a little bit of speculation, which I'll go down to this image here. So in this, so we'll go over the Golden Acorn camp first. So the rulers from the Golden Acorn camp can develop their anthills in the Land of Clash and the Land of Abundance. Rulers from the Golden Acorn camp will enjoy powerful buffs at the beginning, and they can occupy more neutral fortresses to increase the power of all the rulers from their camp. Occupy fortresses, destroy tunnels, compete against the enemy camp for the Tree of Abundance, and seize the final victory. The fairy will allocate alliances to the camps according to the strengths of the alliances. Few alliances will be allowed into the Golden Acorn camp. So right off the bat, you're seeing that it's going to be essentially three alliances right off the bat. They're going to have to be in that camp. My speculation is that because you'll start out having control of the Land of Clash tunnels, at least, you're not going to have a normal zone essentially to go to. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But it also could be that there's going to be 11 alliances total that are on the server, with it being an 8 versus 3. I don't think that part is what's going to happen. I think that you're going to have an initial location, but you're able to basically push off of the tunnel. And we'll go into why I think that. Rulers from the Golden Acorn camp can teleport freely in the neutral territory of an alliance initial place, unselected Land of Clash, and the Land of Abundance. So essentially, even though you're going to start out where you can't take the first Clash area wonder or whatnot, you're still going to be able to get in there, get the tiles, get the other buildings, etc. Which is where I think it gives the Golden Acorn camp a leg up, because not only are they going to be able to push into an actual initial area, but they're also going to have access to a Clash right off the bat. Okay, and then if you, of alliance initial place, okay, and then like I said, the Golden Acorn camp will occupy all level 9 tunnels at the beginning. So again, I think that means that you're going to be able to push into the Clash areas immediately, get your buffs and everything else like that. All right, so camp buff. When rulers from the Golden Acorn camp battle with their opponents within the Land of Clash areas and the Land of Abundance, the attributes of soldier ants will be improved. So just like the two camps that have the two camp areas, I think that those is kind of how the buffs are going to be, but it's going to be the Land of Clash areas and the initial area. Now, the disadvantage of this right now for the other camp is the fact that they're already in the Land of Clash before you can even get to it and touch the tunnel. Because the tunnel, you're going to have to build all the way to the tunnel to be able to fight them in the first place. So it's essentially meaning that it's going to be kind of a race for getting the buffs in the initial area and in the Clash area. But there's also an interesting factor with that, because it's either going to be a dynamic to where those level 9 tunnels are untouchable by this the snowy camp, or it's during the lockdown phase that it does for each milestone, or they're immediately going to be open. All right. The season rewards will be determined based off the tree of abundance, occupant of settlement, your champion point ranking during the 2 stages. Blah blah. And then alliances from the golden Acorn camp can receive richer season rewards, as they should. They're at a disadvantage if it's 3 versus 5. All right. So then we'll get into the snowy cedars. So, that was another thing to mention. I'm not sure if I did. Rulers from the Golden Acorn camp can develop their anthills in the land of clash and the land of abundance. So that means trying to upgrade your buildings or anything like that, you're going to have to be in the clash areas or in the tree area to be able to even do anything with that. And then rulers from the Snowy Cedar camp can develop their anthills in the selected initial place only. Rulers from the Snowy Cedar camp have no special buff at the beginning, but they can occupy the fortress in the neutral initial place to increase the power of all rulers from their camp. So they automatically have no buff, and then they have a limitation on the buildings that they can get. So occupy fortresses, blah blah blah, same thing. Vary according to the strengths of the alliance. None of that's. There's going to be more alliances in this than the other camp. So again, back to that 5 versus 3 dynamic. Rulers from the Snowy Cedar camp can teleport freely in the neutral territory of the alliance initial place. So remember again, the golden camp side can teleport basically anywhere for free. So major leg up on that side. When the rulers from the Snowy Cedar camp battle within with their opponents within the alliance initial place, the attributes of the soldier ants will improve. Okay. And then season rewards, blah blah. It's basically the same except for the fact that you just get less rewards than the Golden Acre camp. Okay, so here's one problem with this. So obviously they're basically getting rid of home buffs per se and dealing with each of these areas as if it's just its own territory. So the Golden Acorn camp, they already have a overall buff that they're probably going to end up keeping. They could teleport everywhere, so they're saving diamonds on that. They have access to the initial clash area. The only real downside that I see is the fact that they have less people. It'd be at 3 versus 5. But here's the thing. If the only time that the Snowy camp is having buffs is inside the initial areas, that's easy. You just defend the one initial area that you control, which at any given time, depending if you're kind of smart about how you place into the areas, then that's only one side that you're ever going to have to defend. And then you're just going to have to defend the clash. And then there'll become a time when, because obviously the only one that matters are the clash and the tree area, you just abandon the normal area. And since the buffs inside the clash area and the tree area from the buildings are more anyway, it's really no loss. So you just hold your ground at the gate, essentially. Now, the only disadvantage of that is that, you'll have less tiles and such. But aside from that, not really a big loss. And then, of course, again, inside, even though it's a 3 versus 5, inside of that tree area in the clash area, the Golden Acorn camp has the buff anyway. So here's my problem with it, and especially when they're talking about the matchmaking, to where you can pick what camp you want, but the game actually will choose like what your camp is. So obviously it's probably going to be for one side, the Golden Acorn camp, because they have a disadvantage. It's going to stick at least 2 of the strongest alliances into that camp, and probably then one weaker one. The Snowy Cedar camp will probably only have one strong alliance, like the strongest of the alliances, and then a bunch of smaller alliances. I don't really like this dynamic. I think that that's not really rewarding, because then it's just going to be you're relying on the strongest of the alliances to basically carry you for whether you win or not. And the fact that with the snowy cedar camp kind of falling at a disadvantage as far as the part that actually matters, like when you get into the clash area and the tree area, I think that they should have the same rewards, even if they are at a disadvantage as far as numbers. They are not at a disadvantage as far as buffs and the ability not have to spend as many diamonds to teleport around in that crunch time that really matters. So all in all, this is what we know. Again, some of it is speculation, and they've said many times that things will change or can change. It's all subject to change as we get closer. My overall thoughts on this, I'm not sure I'm going to enjoy this game mode. To be honest, I think I like the idea of having asymmetry, but I think that they're giving a little bit too much of an advantage when they're basically allowing one camp, especially with, you know, you being able to place towers or transfer towers to other alliances and stuff. They're giving all the power to the Golden Acorn camp, and then all they have to do really is defend the gate. Which, I mean, if you have one alliance that transfers a tower to like the strongest people, and then, you know, have the strongest people transfer one, and then they could transfer one as well, so you can at least lock down two sides at any time, and then the strongest alliance can just hold down the fort by themselves up at the one that, like, for say, would have two branching into it, so they only have to handle two alliances at once, and then all three of them can handle the other ways in. I'm not a big fan of this. I think it's gonna be really bad, and I don't think it's a game people are really gonna like. I would be interested. I just don't want to kind of see it. I just don't know if I want to be the guinea pig to test it out and play it. But anyway, kind of a longer video than I was expecting, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below or in my Discord. And this is Agne, and we'll see you in the next one.